Hi, Eric Gibaud, ericgibaud.com, and today I'm going to speak about the 5 diseases that actually kill your photography. Let's start. Well, many people have been asking me, when are you going to record again in your van? Well, here I am in the van, so this video I record here just for these people who ask for it. So first, maybe you can save yourself. Watch the video, there's some medicine for that. You can actually escape from this disease. But I'm going to tell you what they are, what I think they are, and how maybe you could save yourself and take the right medicine to be all right. So the first disease is the abuse of high ISO. I speak about the abuse, not the use. I've got nothing against people using high ISO, but I think it's a big mistake when they abuse. Many people, when they see there is not much light, what they do, they pull up the ISO, and that saves their photo. At least have a picture instead of having nothing. That's perfectly acceptable. But other people, they just do not learn how to light. They don't know how to place flash or use the natural light in the right direction. They just pull ISO, they just push the ISO, and they think that will be okay. And that's not the way it works. If light is too dim, there is not even light, normally the aspect is really flat, it's not contrasty enough, or the other hand is too contrasty, there's a spot of very high light and all the rest is really dark. Colors are really flat, they are not really nice. So if you push the ISO, what will happen is that you will see better, but everything will be the same flatness. And also I speak about contrast and also about colors. It will be really dull anyway, so the picture won't be better. You will be safe. So you should see the ISO as a spare tire. Let's say you have a flat tire, you put your spare tire and you drive, but you don't keep driving with that tire forever. You actually go to a tire workshop and you say, please, can you fix my tire? And then you replace the tire, the spare tire goes back to its place, and you use the normal tire and you start driving again. If I speak about the really thin tires they now put on sport cars very often, it's even written on it, you should not drive over 80 km/h and no longer than 150 kilometers. They're not made for driving. So the ISO is this, the high ISO is a spare tire. You use it just when you cannot do anything else. It's better to have a picture with high ISO than no picture. But you cannot plan your way of making picture basing it on using always the ISO, the high ISO. That's a big mistake, and your picture will be flat, will be dull colors, not really interesting color-wise and contrast-wise. So it's very important that you do not abuse of high ISO and you learn how to light or how to use the available light, not just pushing the ISO. Second disease, depth of field, shallow depth of field. I'll leave you a video that makes a big difference between bokeh and shallow depth of field. Well, many people, when they get a really luminous lens or a larger sensor, they actually, longer focal length, I mean, all but define what could help you to get a shallow depth of field. They're just like, oh, that's magical, I get shallow depth of field, and now I see this small flower and nothing behind and things like this. So I don't say you cannot use it, but don't use it always. Use it when it's logical to use it. You want to make a portrait and there is nothing in the background, or you want to have blurred from here to the ear or whatever, then yes, you can. Or you want to isolate something because you think it's nicer this way, or a person on the street and there is a rubbish bin in the back and you don't want the rubbish bin to appear and you don't want to erase it in Photoshop. Yes, why not? But sometimes it becomes stupid. People are really abusing this. A few videos ago I published a shooting we made with Claudia Reyes in New York City, in Brooklyn, and you see the Brooklyn Bridge and also the Manhattan Bridge in the back. And a guy commented, he said, I think your client would have preferred to have a shallower depth of field. So first, Claudia is not my client, she's my partner. When we make the picture, we go everything together, and obviously she was not my client, but she was part of the photography decision. And second, this is really stupid to say that. I mean, you travel 8,000 kilometers, you take a plane from Europe, you go to the United States, you go to Brooklyn, make picture, and make sure the Brooklyn Bridge is blurred. That's stupid. For this, I stay in Europe, or I go to a studio, I stay at home, or whatever, and I get everything blurred anyway if I want. I don't need to travel to see a bridge you cannot see on my picture. This is stupid. And most people, they are using shallow depth of field basically because they don't know how to compose. If they knew how to compose, how to frame, how to make the right composition in their picture, they would not need this shallow depth of field. Of course, it is harder to compose. You're on the street, you want to make sure that there is like some space around your subject, so it doesn't, the hair is not mixing with the rest, or you're doing maybe something like an object and you don't want it to confuse with the rest. It's harder to compose. The easy way is to do a really shallow depth of field, but then sometimes it becomes stupid. If I go to see an artisan doing craft work, maybe there's a picture I want to see just the tip of his finger, and yes, I need shallow depth of field. But then I make a portrait in his workshop, and you don't see what's in the workshop, you just see him. Obviously you want to see his tool, what's hanging off the wall, the other machinery he may have there, or whatever. You want to see that. If you use shallow depth of field, you don't see it. You lose all the context and all the interest of this picture, which is not just a subject, but also his life and his surrounding. So obviously you need to know how to compose, how to make sure that elements are placed properly, so there is some harmony, some nice composition, logical things, and the way it looks, it's nice. So this way the picture is good. You cannot just use shallow depth of field just to save yourself because you don't know how to compose. There are different techniques, but you cannot abuse of either one. Well, if you never use shallow depth of field, maybe it's not a problem if you know how to compose. But if you only use the shallow depth of field because you don't know how to compose, then you have a serious problem. You're just killing your pictures, you're killing the subject, you're killing the context, you're killing everything. Third disease, burst photography. You're there, you press the trigger, and this is completely killing your picture because you don't know when you should press the trigger. And a good photographer like Cartier-Bresson said the precise instant, or the perfect instant, I can't remember how they say it in English. You must make sure when you have to press the trigger. So many people say, yeah, but this way I don't miss any picture. Well, when I see them making picture of a stone, I'll tell you that this stone is not running away, and if it runs away, you're probably flying away with it, so maybe it's not the right day to make pictures. So honestly, the problem with using burst triggering in burst mode is that you actually fill your hard drive, but you think you get the right picture and you're probably not getting the right picture. I'm going to tell you a small story of a friend. He never wants me to tell his name in my video. Like 40 years ago, he was in a stadium doing a picture of jumping, high jump, athletic, and he was there with a Leica M3, and next to him there was a guy with a reflex camera. I don't know if Nikon or Canon at that time. He was all showing off because his camera had a burst rate of 3 images per second, which at that time was incredible. So he said, with this I cannot miss a picture anymore. I said, okay. So then the guy, one of the sport athletes, started to run, to jump, and then when he goes over the horizontal bar when jumping, my friend does on his Leica M3, and he hears the guy starting to trigger since he started running, so and maybe he shot 20 pictures. I mean, almost half the roll, or more than half the roll of his 36 pictures then. And then after the guy jumps, he says, well, now I'm sure I've got the picture. I'm not sure you have yours with just one click. And my friend says, okay, when you get this roll developed, we keep in touch and we see each other, have a coffee, and we speak about the picture and we compare, okay? A week later, he speaks to the guy, and the guy says, well, I don't have the picture. What do you mean you don't have the picture? Well, I've got the guy jumping just before the bar and just after the bar, but not when he's just on top. And my friend shows the picture and says, look, and the guy was just on top of the bar. Why? Because to get the right instance, you probably need a really high burst rate, maybe 10 images per second or even more. Otherwise, it's better to trigger when you need to trigger, not 10 years before, or 10 hours or 10 minutes before. You need to trigger when you have to trigger. Of course you may miss, but even with a burst rate, you may miss also. So it's better to learn when to press the trigger. And actually, many people that abuse burst rates, they start triggering far too soon, and when the right moment is there, the buffer of the camera is full and it cannot empty anymore. There's no space anymore until it's emptied in the memory card, and then they cannot press the trigger anymore and they actually miss the whole thing. So it's a lot better to do or really short burst or no burst at all and trigger at the right moment, otherwise you are killing your picture. And if you're actually working like this just with burst, actually you could put a robot and then after you just select the picture you want and that's it. So avoid abusing burst photography, burst triggering. Use it just and only when absolutely necessary, and learn when to press the trigger at the right moment. Fourth disease. This is a specific disease for street photography, the use of telelens. Many people, they say, well, I do street photography. Oh, I don't know, I would be afraid to make picture of other people on the street. I keep aside the legal part, that in some countries it's not legal to make street photography, or you can take the picture but you cannot publish them or whatever. I don't stay aside of this. The thing is, if you hear the word street photography, if you use a telelens, you actually isolate the subject. You don't see any street anymore. This is like a portrait, outdoor portrait, isolated portrait, and you lose the context. You need to see the street. So a real street photographer has a couple of balls, or if she's a woman, well, what women have, and they actually get close to the subject using a wide angle, so it gives a dramatic look. You actually see the street, you actually see the context. You don't isolate your subject just using a telelens, because this is not street photography. This is whatever, portrait on the street, whatever. And the thing is, very often when you see people using telelens on the street, they really work in a coward way or voyeur way. If I see a beggar on the street, come on, get close to him, give him some food, give him some money, and then make a picture and get the context, not just his face, get the context, get a closer portrait, but you get close to him, you speak to him, and you make sure he's okay with you making pictures, okay? And get the context, where he sleeps, or the surrounding, all this, make the picture interesting, okay? But many people, they just use telelens and do that cowardly from really far, or very often they do that with girls. Nice girl for him, so I should, or she has a really small mini skirt or micro skirt, so I'll make the picture. And this is not photography, this is voyeurism, this is not the same thing. So using telelens on street photography loses the whole sense of street photography. You can use like 24mm equivalent full frame, 24, 28, 35, 50 like Cartier-Bresson, but not a 200mm. What is that? This is not street photography, this is spying, this is voyeurism. And if you want to make street photography, be courageous, get up to your subject, use a wide angle, put him in a context, make the picture interesting. The fifth disease is the zoom lens. Opposite to the prime lens. Zoom lenses were invented for lazy people, but for lazy people who don't want to change lenses all the time. I put my 28, I put my 50, I put my 80, I put my 35. Now I got one zoom lens, I just touch the zoom lens. This kind of lazy people, that was made for them. But people think this is made for lazy people who don't want to move their ass. No, you have to walk. Actually, you should use your zoom lens as if it was prime lenses, several prime lenses. When I use in my micro four thirds system, I use my 12 to 40 millimeter, which is equivalent of 24 to 80 millimeters. If I do portraits, I lock it on 40 millimeter, which is equivalent of 80, and then I don't touch it anymore. I move myself forward, backwards. If I want to do some street photography, I decide to have the aspect of 35 millimeter. I lock it there, I don't touch it anymore, I move myself. And this is really important. There is probably only one right place where to stand depending on the focal length you're using. If you are standing on the wrong place and you actually adjust the framing using the zoom, you actually change the look of your picture. If it's a person, it will be higher, taller, fatter, thinner, whatever. But if you make several pictures in a row and every time you touch the zoom, then you change the focal length and the aspect of the scenery will be different. It seems like a different photographer made the picture. You need some consistency, and for consistency, you cannot be touching all the time the zoom. You should use it as if it was several prime lens in one. I never use my zoom lens on 37 millimeter. I use it on 40 or 35. I don't use it on 26. I use it on 24 or 30 or 28, and so on. So try to be really serious about the way you use your zoom lens. Don't abuse. And if you say, yes, but in that room, if I don't touch the zoom, the person doesn't fit in the framing. Well, you have to go somewhere else, or think completely the series completely again. I will do a different look with wide angle, and then the pose may be different, the way you place yourself will be different, everything will be different. But in this change, it will be for the whole series. So I don't say your zoom is only for 40 millimeter, only for 35, only for 28. No, it's for everything. But within a series, don't touch the zoom. And then I've got a bonus disease. I don't know if you can speak about bonus disease, an extra disease. Well, an extra point to this. Well, edition of your picture. I don't say you cannot edit or you should not edit pictures. I think you should edit picture, the same as in analog photography. You actually go to the lab and you do some zone development and everything. You actually develop your picture while you enlarge a picture. You actually work on zone, all this, as Ansel Adams spoke about it. And I don't say you cannot remove a spot on a face, or I don't say you cannot remove an extinguisher from a wall. I say that the edition is part of the whole process. It's not an emergency way of saving life of your bad pictures. From the minute you press, you should know how the light is, how the colors are, and how you will edit that picture, because it's part of the process. Too many people, they just make anything. They don't care about the lighting, they don't care about the elements, they don't care about the composition, and they think they will fix everything in Photoshop or whatever software they're actually using. And no, that's not the way it works. The way it works is, I know this extinguisher on the wall should not be there. I cannot remove it. I'll remove it with Photoshop. I know I don't really like the color of the background, but I don't have anything to change it. I'm not going to paint this wall again, or I don't have a gel to give some light to give a color to this wall. I will modify it in post-production. You decide from the start when you look at the scene, you get your camera, you already know how the process will be. You probably already know if you will make it in black and white or in color. You actually know that beforehand, because for you, the edition is part of the process, is not saving you bad pictures. Well, I hope this small video, well, maybe a bit long video, helps you. If you think this video may interest other people, please share it on social networks. If you have not done yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, the small button down here, and also a small bell. If you click on it, you'll get notified when I upload a new video. My website, ericgibaud.com. If you have any question, you can leave a comment below or send me an email to info@ericgibaud.com. Below, I also put links of my gear on Amazon, also links to other parts of my YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Bye.